the DRV to order. And we'll
Recording has
start
begun,
with
Mr.
pledge
Bell.
allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, next item is the minutes of the December 8th meeting. I was not at the meeting, so I have no comment on the contents, but it read properly. Anybody have anything?
No.
I saw nothing on the minutes. They looked fine.
Okay. And I move to approve the minutes as presented.
I second.
Okay, any other comment? Okay, those in favor? Aye.
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 Those opposed? Okay, the minutes are approved as presented. Okay, next is Magnolia Gardens concept review. Town
Good
staff? Okay,
morning, everyone. Laura Lyon, Planner 2 for the town of La Plata, just for the record. The applicant has submitted a concept architectural plans for the Design Review Board's consideration for Magnolia Gardens Apartments. The proposed 3.75 acre project is zoned CBT and will be located on the northbound side of Washington Avenue, where the Heritage Green Parkway will intersect. The project will consist of 72 apartments in 4 separate freestanding buildings and 1 community center. This is a campus style with all the public entrances faces the main parking lot. The 4 buildings will be 3 stories in height. Sidewalks and breezeways have been provided throughout the site to ensure adequate pedestrian flow. Striped access aisles will be provided to protect pedestrians from all vehicular traffic. This site is subject to a parking waiver, which was just received this week. There are 80 parking spaces required and only 41 provided. This does meet the 22% threshold per the town code. The applicant will need to submit concept stormwater management plans and major site plans for review and approval by the Planning Commission, which I believe that they have done that. The applicant is looking for comments from the Design Review Board on architectural design before proceeding with the detailed drawings. There have been conversations with town staff about a possible barrier fence between the railroad and the rear of the property. This proposed fence would match and be consistent with many other properties that abut that exact railroad. Staff would like to remind the applicant that any future fencing and all signage, concept or otherwise, will need to come back to the Design Review Board. Additionally, the applicant has provided 2 color options for the buildings provided. Staff would recommend that the board review the concept drawings and provide any additional recommendations on the ultimate design of the proposed apartment buildings. And they have provided option 1 and option 2.
the fence, how is the developer reacting to that suggestion? That sounds like a good idea. There's a
Braxton,
railroad.
Rebecca?
You said you talked about a fence between the project and the railroad. That sounds like a good idea. How did the
Sure.
developer react to that suggestion?
Sure, I can speak to that. My name is Rebecca Warrens. I'm with Enterprise Community Development. We have a fair amount of experience building properties been adjacent to railroads, and it has been our practice based on previous consultation on other jobs with railroad safety personnel to create a barrier with prickly bushes in lieu of fencing. And that's why we propose that as opposed to fencing.
Well, wouldn't fencing be a better idea? I assume this building will house children. And I think a fence would be better than prickly bushes.
That's the town's preference. We will, we can certainly make that change. It was not something that we would recommend based on our experience, but we're.
Hey, David. David, your audio is a little off. We can't understand what you're saying.
Do we know what type of tenants will be in the apartment? Are these geared to more young professionals or young families? Do we know what the apartments, how many 2 bedrooms, how many, 1 bedrooms? I would think the more 2 bedrooms there will be more young children in, as tenants versus majority of 1, single bedroom.
So this property will have 1, 2, and 3 bedroom apartment units, with the majority being 1 bedroom, but there will still be a fair number of 2 and 3 bedroom apartments. And what we have proposed along the railroad tracks are a row of hollies that will grow together to create a hedge, essentially, to act as a fence barrier between the railroad tracks. So there will be, there is a potential for families to move in here. But we think that having a hedge grow together will act as a good.
That will take time, for because typical plantings are small. So it will take a while for that hedge to grow to its maturity to provide protection. And also I'm old, but I do remember, that holly bushes, you just crawled under them and got to where you wanted to be. So, and I don't think that the eventual shrubbery is going to keep kids from getting to the railroad tracks,
That's actually sort of the point. So, and I am not a railroad expert. We make this recommendation because we have been in this position before. And, sometimes somebody shares something with you and it really sticks. And in the case, it was a project we worked on about 9 years ago. And we had to, there was much more work happening associated with railroad, but there was going to be housing adjacent to a railroad track. And so we had to meet with the railroad's safety engineers. And as they described it to us, the worst thing is to have somebody between the fence and the railroad, because they may panic when that train is coming. And if the barrier is landscaping that is prickly as opposed to a fence, they can still get through and get away from that train. So, but in any event, if the town really prefers a fence, we understand. We're sharing our experience and recommendations from previous developments.
Can you hear me this time?
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
much better.
Looking at the aesthetics, in my opinion, between a fence and a shrub, a hedge of hollies, I would prefer the hedge of hollies myself. I'm not qualified to comment on the safety of one versus the other next to a train, so I would prefer the shrubbery. Going back to the aesthetics of the building itself, could we put that image back up, please? I guess I'm concerned about the fact that the project's all about the parking again. That's not really our purview to comment on that. The 4 different types of siding, I find a bit much. You have stone, and then you have 3 different types of siding. I think if you did stone around the base and just maybe 1 or 2 types of siding, that'd be more than enough. I'm not sure what architectural style you're going after with so many different types of siding. I prefer option 2 with the more white tones versus the tan tones, just personal preference on that. I find this particular genre of garden apartments kind of odd in the fact that you have these gables that don't really relate to the massing of the building. That the gables look kind of big compared to the projections over which they're placed. But otherwise, I think it's just fine.
Yeah, I agree. I prefer option 2 and color, especially because 1, it's a little less busy with less color options. I agree. I feel like there's a lot of vertical and horizontal and stone going on in that aspect, but it does sit on a property next to a yellowish building. So I do think option 2 kind of looks a little better on the aesthetic on that side of the street.
Jim Golson here, just jumping in. You commented about the next to the yellow building. That yellow building is going to be repainted white.
Oh, well, that's good to hear.
Well, there you go.
Even better vote for option 2.
Who owns that building? Jim?
At this point in time, there's a new buyer coming into effect on it, and I don't know the exact name who owns it and such, but it will still continue to be used as a medical type facility.
So going back to this building, and my comments, I think keeping it simple can be very effective. Sometimes I feel like designers try to do too much on a facade. I probably would even do a little bit less stone. I don't think the stone needs to go vertical like it is, because it's only going partway up the building, so it's not really horizontal, nor is it vertical. It's kind of this awkward in between. Maybe just do stone around the base of the building. Keep it nice and strong, emphasizing the base of the building. Then do horizontal siding, very traditional. Again, you don't need to have shingle type siding as well and board and batten. It just seems like a lot. In my mind's eye, it doesn't really fit any particular architectural style in that regard. And going back to the gables, I would make the gables only 2 bays wide. I don't know if you understand that, what I'm talking about, but see how the gables respond to 4 windows on each instance. If the gable was reduced to respond to only 2 windows wide, I think it would be much more fitting to the scale of the building. Can you see my cursor?
No.
No.
I requested control, but I guess I didn't.
What do you need? Oh,
I just wanted to point out what I was talking about, where the gable, I feel like the gables could respond to the massing on the building.
you're
I'm not sure
talking
if that
about.
was.
I think we do understand. Our architect
Okay,
was
that's
on
fine
this
then.
call.
Okay.
So yeah,
Right.
I understand the request, smaller gables and more like a water
Like this.
table with stone as
Yes,
opposed
water
to,
table.
although we do have a water table shown.
Yes, I just
Hard to
like,
see
I'm not
behind
sure it's
your
adding
shrub.
anything, having the stone do this right here.
Yeah.
I wanted to wait until you guys finished commenting before I reply to your comments. So that's why I'm being silent in the background.
Oh, go ahead, please.
No, is there other people? Are there other people that have comments? Because it'd probably be best to address all of them at once. I guess the silence means no. Okay. Is there a possibility whoever has control of this can zoom into that elevation a little closer? Okay, very good. And then pan over just a smidgen. Okay, perfect. So what we were going with this design here is more of a modern farmhouse style. That's why we have the 2/1 windows. And we have a blend of siding in and stone. And the reason we do this is we actually had option 1 with the different colors because we were concerned with it just being, you know, siding, and it's a pretty simple rectangular box. It's not very complex. So we were we didn't want it to have, you know, a lot of as the Gables, you were saying, if they just went over the 2 windows instead of the 4, we basically tucked up the projection into that overhang to give it some nice shadow lines. And I'm not sure if you can see this, and I'm going to request control so I can point. Just let me know when I can do that. Okay, so this right here, this is actually a shadow line. It's very hard to show these things in these renderings. There is, yeah, this projects out 2 feet. So there is a shadow line here. This sets back. And we were trying to achieve, you know, to help with when you have a building that's 3 stories and it's a big rectangle, we wanted to give it some relief in with these 2-foot undulations and the change in materials. And we're also the funding source. Everybody has opinions, and the funding source tends to like that more than not. So we were trying to make this a mass and this a mass, and this is a connection between the 2 because these are longer buildings. So it was the best way we felt we could achieve, you know, giving it some character. And especially if you do want to go with all white, I prefer to have the differences. And if you look at our farmhouse style, the shingles in the Gables is very common, and so is the board and batten. But to do board and batten on a 3-story building without any kind of break, it's really monotonous. So that's why we chose the things that we did. And I absolutely love the opportunity to use a colored window style. It is very nice to do that. And if you look, you know, at your high-end market rate projects, that seems to be the in thing now, the fad. And I love getting the opportunity to do this. And what we were trying to do with the stone here is more make the entrances more prominent, because like I said, this line is a shadow line. So this whole element here is set back from the rest of the element. And I would not be able to put these nice little canopies up in these gables if I made them smaller. I just think that personally, the massing for me works better like this to break up the big rectangle. And that's, I guess, all I have to say about that. Does anyone else have any additional comments?
I do. I guess maybe I don't fully understand, but when you're saying that the parking requirement is, quote, 72 parking spots, you got 72 apartments here, but you're only going to have 20 some. How does that accommodate the people for that building? I don't think I fully understand that.
I don't think that's right. Stacy, are you going to speak to the parking quantity?
Yeah, I was just going to ask if you wanted to speak to that. Actually, there's actually 180 spaces that are required, and we're providing 143.
Okay.
So if that, I can give you further explanation, but if that addresses your question.
Okay. Are you also planning on maybe using an overflow into the park and ride?
No, we cannot do that.
You cannot do that, okay.
Could you explain how providing less than the 180, how does that balance for you?
Sure. We've actually applied for a parking waiver, which we have to take before the Planning Commission for approval. Basically, we evaluated the parking. Right now, the parking regulations require us to provide 2.5 parking spaces per dwelling unit. We consulted the Institute of Transportation Engineers parking standards. So this is, I guess you could say, a national standard where they study these kind of projects and parking associated with these projects. And per the national standard, we only need to provide 1.7 parking spaces per dwelling unit. What we've done is kind of done a happy medium, and we're actually providing 2 spaces per dwelling unit. So the National Institute of Transportation Engineers studied also the peak hour, which is at night. You know, most parking spaces are necessary at night, and we have exceeded that requirement as far as what the peak hour need is for this project. So the comp plan for the town of La Plata actually indicates that if we can reduce parking spaces and not have an overabundance of parking on these projects, we're actually encouraged to do so. So that's why we took this approach.
And again, that will be reviewed and approved by the Planning Commission. We're planning on taking this to the February Planning Commission meeting. So that'll be hashed out with staff reviewing, where staff is actually reviewing the submission right now. And then we will take that to the Planning Commission to review.
Okay, when you go to the Planning Commission, I think you should mention to them that we had a discussion about the fence versus the hedge. We had no true expert on that subject here today. We had a couple people with experience or with opinions, but I think we should give it another look. So I recommend that you refer it to the Planning Commission for further discussion.
Absolutely. We will include that in our staff report to the Planning Commission as part of their review. And then, like I said, we will take this, we'll be bringing this back to the DRB after the Planning Commission approval or non-approval, however it may work, or approval with conditions, and we'll bring this back for the DRB so everything can be reviewed as a whole.
I didn't think we were approving anything today. I thought
You're
this was.
Yeah, this is just for discussion purposes and to give the applicant ideas on how to move forward. That's why we had the 2 options there. They had presented a couple, and we wanted to make sure that we got the board's input before they took too much more time in developing the detailed architectural plans. I think that this is a good approach. We did this with 109 Charles Street, and it really did help the applicant to come back with a well-finished architectural design for the board to review and approve. So I think that this may be anything with a larger project. We may encourage this moving forward to make sure that we get your input before they get far into it.
Okay. And I think we did that. I'm just asking if we have any formal method of passing this information on, or have our discussions been sufficient?
The discussions are sufficient, and staff can certainly summarize this and send this back to the applicant in an email, just so that there's no confusion, because we do have a transcription going, so we can certainly send them this transcription so that way they can move forward with their design. I just wanted to make sure that everyone had an opportunity to weigh in and provide your comments, and then we can move on.
Okay, sounds good to me. Does anybody else have any other comments on this project?
No, I don't have any.
I have none.
Jim?
No, no.
David?
No.
Okay. I think we're done on this one.
Thank you all for your time.
Welcome.
Yes,
It's a
thank
nice
you.
looking project.
Thank you.
This looks very neat.
Okay, we're gonna go. Thank you very much.
Okay. Okay, the next subject on our agenda is the design guidelines review. I assumed that Janine would be here for this.
Yes, I am here. I am not going to turn my camera on. I am at home and not feeling very well, so I look awful, but I am here. So Janine Harrington, Director of Planning for the record. And this is just bringing back the guidelines. We had discussed this at the December meeting. I had requested comments from the board prior to publication, which I did receive. A few regarding the types of materials that are, which page is that on? That would be, oh goodness. Page 15. So the comments that I received were about the vinyl siding or different types of siding and different types of materials, and wanting a set standard put in for the recommendation. So the comment that I received in essence was that vinyl or any kind of siding should be 0.044 inches or thicker. I did include that in here, but I did send the board a follow-up email regarding the International Building Code and the fact that we use a third-party contractor to review all of our building permits, because there was concern about enforcing this regulation and making sure that they're using this size of siding. So there's a couple issues that I brought up, that under the International Building Code, there are set standards for building materials, thickness, those types of things. In order for us to actually enforce a 0.044 inch or thicker vinyl siding, or whatever it may be, we would have to amend our town code in reference to the International Building Code to require that thickness. And that's purely on the enforcement side. We can certainly keep this in here and say it's what we want. But I just wanted to get down to the logistics of actually enforcing this as part of the building permit and inspection process. The plan check, they're going by the town's adopted code, which doesn't make an exception for or make a reference to a certain thickness of materials. So they're not going to be looking for that, and they're not going to be enforcing that because it's not in code. I can certainly let them know, but again, if it's not in the code, the applicant would not be mandated to provide that thickness legally. So I wanted to bring that to your attention. Like I said, I have no problems with the thickness, that you're presenting. But I also brought up the fact that each different type of siding or material has its own different set of thickness or scales. I mentioned the metal roofing is done in gauging. And then of course the different types of materials would have different thicknesses as well. So I'm not sure how that would play into this, or what comments you may have regarding that issue. That's just something that as I was doing my research, and I immediately thought of the International Building Code and the fact that the town itself does not actually review building permits or do the building inspections. That is done by our third-party contractor. So it's going to be a challenge.
So then our comments had no impact anyway, because our concerns can't be addressed with regard to the guidelines currently say high quality materials, but there's no way to enforce what's already in the community guidelines because plan check is going under their, you know, whatever.
Under the building code. So that's why I bring this up, is that if this is something that you feel very strongly about, we are going to have to take this to the town council to try to get a code revision to chapter 75, which is our building construction chapter, to put in that exception that we would not accept anything less than, you know, these certain thicknesses based on the International Building Codes tables. Like I said, they have tables that show the minimum thickness of different types of materials, including vinyl, metal, you know, any of the different types of siding. They have a table within the building code that, you know, shows the minimum acceptable thickness. So we would have to make an exception to that and do a code revision to be approved by the town council.
So what's the next step on this subject?
The next step is to get a consensus from the design review board that you want to proceed with an amendment to chapter 75. I would have to make those revisions and bring that to the town council.
Well, for one, I'm not sure I understand the pros and cons of this thing enough to vote.
I think one of the key
Well, I suppose
concerns is I was looking.
Go ahead, James.
Yeah, I think one of the key concerns is I heard previous conversations and such, and that is the durability cosmetically of looking at the building for the siding. And I know I've got sheds and stuff, and I got all kinds of holes in the shed from the weed eater or for stones chipping into it. And if you've got a nice large commercial building that looks high quality, you don't want those things happening. That's going to show inferior quality at that point in time. So, and from what I've read, the 0.44 is strong enough that it will have a stone bounce off of it or something else hitting it. It won't actually deteriorate that particular siding. And that's, I think, where we're coming from at that point in time, is just to make sure it looks good 5 years from now or 10 years from now as compared to when it's just first built.
Yeah, another thing you have to protect against is hailstones. When we had the tornado, I got a lot of hailstone damage. Of course, that's house quality siding, not commercial. But the commercial should pretty much insure against hailstones.
Well, in the B5 under materials, it says utilize high quality durable materials that reflect the town's traditional Main Street and highway corridor character. If there's no way to enforce the high quality durable materials, I don't even know why it's in there.
Well, that's the point I'm trying to make, is that we can enforce it, but it will require an amendment to chapter 75 of the town code.
Well, so backing up Betty's comments, I think then it's a good idea if the design review board proceeds in this direction. Hold on a second, please.
Yeah, I mean, I think the only way for us to be able to enforce it is to continue on with what we want and to look to have it, the code revision made so that it can be enforceable, because everybody's definition of high quality durable material is all driven by the dollar sign.
Exactly. Absolutely.
So I think that the design review board should move forward at making the amendment to the code.
That's basically my comment as well. Yes, I agree. I had to step away for a second. And I see a comment from someone watching the meeting, Mr. Flatley. I'd like to respond to that. I don't think the intent of this board is to make things more expensive for the town of La Plata. The intent of our board is to encourage excellence in design, quality. I'm a firm believer that quality of material affects the quality of the design. That's what our board wants for our town. And that's why we have these things in place, and we're moving forward to try to encourage that through the legal processes. But it's certainly not the intent of the board to try to make things more expensive. Good design doesn't have to be expensive. But yes, there does need to be something different about our town versus the surrounding areas. We don't want to be Waldorf. We don't want to be a suburb. We want to be a beautiful small town. And that does mean that we have to have certain guidelines, and we have to uphold them in a certain way. Because not every developer and not every owner is going to be as fastidious as some of them are. So that's why we have these in place. So I just wanted to respond to that comment from Mr. Flatley on that.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that, David. And so many people throughout any social media avenues or conversations that you have with regard to people who live in the town or prefer to shop in the town, and their concern is that the town of La Plata is just going to be engulfed by Waldorf, and that Waldorf is extending down Rosewick Road. So I hear that quite a bit, and that is a big concern for many of the residents in La Plata and many in Charles County who prefer to shop at La Plata instead of going into the Waldorf area to shop. So I think that it is necessary that we do go through the process of changing the code so that we do have these specifications for materials and actually identify what we consider high quality.
Absolutely.
So I've heard from 3 that appear to recommend moving forward with an amendment to the town code. Is everyone in agreement?
I'm in agreement.
Okay. So I think we have a consensus on that. The next step for me is to amend the language in Chapter 75. I will take that to a work session with the town council, and then it will be up to the town council to approve that language. So I will certainly keep you updated on that process and how that's going. Other than the building materials, I know that's the big one. That's the big topic that was on everybody's mind just from past projects. But there is a lot of content in these guidelines. Were there any other comments, edits, suggestions? I know in Appendix B, pre-approved paint schemes, I feel like we could probably add more to that to make it a little bit easier on the applicants. I wanted to get your opinion on that. That's on page 21. So these are, obviously want to keep them within the natural kind of neutral tones. But I wanted to get your opinion on if we just want to have pre-approved paint colors that are within the natural tones. Do we want to keep them broken out by roof, siding, trim? Or do we just want to have, the brown, grayish, gray, black, brown kind of tones, white, off-white as a general category, that if you're doing updates to your building, within this color scheme,
They can just be approved at the staff level.
Right. And this is for existing buildings that are doing this is in reference to Taco Bell, for example,
Yeah,
where they're
yeah.
changing from tan to white.
Yeah, I think
so-
that's a good idea. Yeah, I mean, I'm
So-
not opposed to any other colors, but perhaps maybe it's best if they want to do a big, vibrant, fun color, they have to come to us. But otherwise, if it fits these colors, it's fine for the staff to approve it.
Right, that's definitely where I was trying to go with this. Are there any other colors like for trim, you know, am I in the right ballpark here? Do you recommend any others for like the roof siding or trim?
I think this is a good starting point for now.
Yeah.
What happened to the idea of about 10 years ago to stay away from dark roofs? Whatever happened to that requirement?
I do not recall, and I don't believe that we've ever enforced that. Pretty
Well, Bob,
much.
that refers more to an urban setting, like in DC, where you have what's called a heat island effect. So you want to have not dark materials on the roofs to try to reduce the amount of heat within the surrounding microclimate. I'm not sure in a town like ours that that's quite the concern or not. I don't think that it is. And plus, we have a lot of Gables style roofs where you're going to see the roof, and I guess traditionally roofs are going to be darker just because they're slate or asphalt or whatever.
Well, we at the DRB, we were enforcing that for several years.
Interesting.
But all
Okay.
of a sudden, it seemed to fade away, and I never heard it mentioned again.
Yeah, I guess if you were to look at an aerial view of Target and Safeway, they probably do have a light colored roof just because that seems to be the, a standard today. I don't know. I've not seen those roofs, but anything with an asphalt roof that you see, I think we probably would prefer it to be a grayish black color, brown, something like that.
That must have been before I got here because I have not experienced the DRB enforcing a lighter color roof. All of the roofs that I've seen have been dark gray, black, dark brown. You have the motel with a green roof or a couple others with a green roof. So I'm not entirely.
Yeah, I agree with you. That's what it's been. But I just wonder why it faded away. Oh, well, it's gone, it's gone.
So were there any other comments on the guidelines as a whole? Like I said, there's a lot of content in there from the staff reviews.
Janine, I gave you a review about 2 months ago. Since then, I've been tied up with other things, including 9 days in the hospital. So I did not go over it anymore.
Okay. Speak now or forever hold your peace.
What was that again?
Well, sorry, one more thing. I know B6 talks about colors, artwork, murals, that kind of thing. The another avenue that anyone who comes in and has, request information for any artwork or that kind of thing, they can contact or could work with, the staff could also recommend them to the Keep La Plata Beautiful committee for their artwork, because they have, an arts work group and may know something in the pipeline that could best fit that particular project.
Absolutely, and we do that right now. Kelly Phipps, who's on our legislative team, she kind of oversees the Keep La Plata Beautiful team, and she works with the businesses in the community to work on murals or artwork. And on page, now I'm trying to figure out what page I'm on here, page 18, where it is the B6 colors, I did add that note, coordinate with the Keep La Plata Beautiful committee under incorporate artwork and murals, just to bring that forward.
Yeah, I'm on that committee, so it's It's an exciting meeting to attend.
Mhm.
I mean, the DRB is not exciting.
Oh, no, we are, but I mean, some of the artwork is a little more exhilarating than some of the projects that we see here at the DRB.
I guess wall paintings are more exciting than black roof.
Oh, you ought to see some of the stuff that's presented. It's there are some extremely talented and creative individuals out there. It's exciting to see.
And that ties into page 15 as well with the detailing and rear facades. I found a really neat example of a place in Colorado, I think it was, where they had that blank wall at the top and they put out, or it's Grass Valley, and they put out a bid for artwork, and they actually came in and painted a mural on the side of that building to kind of liven it up. So I tried to tie that in with the detailing and rear facades as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the two murals we have already in the town are fabulous, in my opinion, and can't wait to see more artwork.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. And the only other thing I'll bring up, if there's no other comments, is in the past, which page did I put it on? Let me see here. I have to find it again. Okay, apparently I can't find it now. Oh, it's on page 8, the design review board process. And this was a recommendation that we received from staff within the town, is under the DRB review or design review board application process. A project must go to the DRB after planning commission approval, but prior to issuance of any building permits.
Isn't that the way we do it now, most of the time?
No, previously we were going to the DRB before planning commission because you guys were still looking at the parking, landscaping, site design, those types of things. But since we've removed that element, and since the architectural review really does fit in more with the building permit process, we flipped it so that they need to go to planning commission for approval of the layout, parking, landscaping, those types of things. And then they can go to the DRB for the architectural review before getting their building permits or moving forward with that process.
Okay.
So if when it comes to the DRB, the project comes to the DRB, and we make a suggestion for change or recommendation for change or whatever, would they then have to go back to the planning commission?
No, so that's why we changed this process, is because in the past the DRB was commenting on the landscaping, the site layout, those types of things, and the planning commission had a differing opinion. According to the annotated code of Maryland, the planning commission is the authority on site design, zoning, those types of things. So instead of making the applicant go to the DRB for a recommendation and then the planning commission for ultimate approval, we've removed that element. So the planning commission is the approving authority. So we are not going to take recommendations back to them from the DRB when it comes to site design, parking, landscaping, stormwater management, any of those site features that deal with the zoning code. It's a duplication of process.
So we're just here to say the colors are pretty.
That is the purview of the design review board to review the architectural integrity of the building.
Well, it's not just the prettiness, it's the practicality of the design. Does it fit with its surroundings? Is there any potential danger features like the fence and the bush discussion we had earlier? So it's a little bit more than what you say, but it does feel like our role is diminished.
But Janine, is it though to review life safety issues like you mentioned with the fence along the railroad? I don't feel comfortable commenting on that. I'm not an expert on.
That is the purview of the planning commission. So, you know, those types of things, if it's not something that you're comfortable with, obviously, you know, when we bring a new construction project forward, there's going to be fencing involved with dumpster enclosures, those types of things. So you can certainly comment on the color scheme, the materials, those types of things to make sure that they're complementary to the building. When it comes to life safety or the fencing, we do have regulations within the zoning code for fencing about the height and about the you know, the locations and those types of things. So that's certainly something that is reviewed by the Planning Commission and by staff. And it also is something that's reviewed as part of you know, the building permit process when they're doing a dumpster enclosure. Those things require footings. That's all reviewed and inspected by Plan Check as part of the building permit process. So there's a lot more to it on the back end and as part of the permit process. We don't require a permit for just a standalone vinyl fence or, you know, any type of fencing along those lines. But we do look at that as part of the overall site plan review with the Planning Commission. Do we have any other comments? I don't think that there was any edits from what I've presented. I did include the 0.044 thickness or greater. And the consensus that I've received is to move forward with presenting an amendment to Chapter 75 to the Town Council for their consideration. But otherwise, were there any physical edits to the guidelines, or are we able to approve them at today's meeting?
I have no additional edits.
Yeah, correct. I do not either.
I don't either.
Can we do a motion to approve?
I move to approve the latest version of the DRB design guidelines.
I second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, Janine, your go.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Okay, next is, what's this? Election of chair and vice chair?
So it has come to my attention that at this point in time, only Amy Henley has an active membership on the Design Review Board right now. Everybody else's terms have expired. So we are bringing this up to make sure that everyone still wants to be on the board, and then to do election of chair and vice chair for the board.
So Amy's in charge right now.
Technically, yeah. Technically, she's the only active member.
I'm the only opinion that counts.
Yay.
So that's where I just needed confirmation. Jim, I don't know if you want to take over since this is more of a council function.
Okay, I guess at this point in time, let me ask you, Janine, You mentioned the question, does everybody want to remain? And if so, we take that to the council for approval and then continue on. Or do you have to have a new chair and vice chair elected today?
So actually we amended the code so that the town council doesn't have to vote on the membership. So you guys can do that today. You can confirm your spots and move forward and do the election of chair and vice chair. If we don't do this, then we have I think that there could be some issues on the back end that you don't have an active membership.
Okay. Has anybody totally turned off of what they've done for the last several years that wants to be gone, or everybody happy with staying?
I think you should consider somebody else to be chair. I've been having more medical problems for a while. I've been at it something like 13 years. I'm still willing to serve on the board, but I might have to quit suddenly. So if anybody else wants to be chairman, that's fine with me. I won't be insulted.
Okay. As far as membership, is anyone else who is currently serving that no longer cares to serve? I'm not hearing anything, so I'm assuming we all continue on. So that brings us down to the point then of electing a new chair and a vice chair. Do I have any nominations or volunteers?
I'd like to nominate Amy to be the chair.
Okay. Amy?
I second it.
Okay. Any other nominations? Now, Amy, were you the vice chair before?
Yes, I was.
Okay, good. You're stepping up. That's the thing. Okay. There be no further nominations for the chair. I move that we accept Amy as the chair for the Design Review Board. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay.
Yeah, I have a question. Do you
Sure.
think it's appropriate for the council member to be the chair or vice chair?
No.
You have a unique position.
No, I don't think so. I don't think it's appropriate. Participation, yes, but not taking the leadership.
Okay, that's what I think too. You could be swapped with another council member at any moment also.
Yeah.
Well, it's true.
Yeah. Okay. So we've got our chair elected. Amy, you want to take over? Elect the vice?
It's a big chance.
Do I have any nominations? Who wants to help me with this as the vice chair of the Design Review Board?
I'd like to
Bob,
nominate David for vice chair.
It's an excellent choice.
A nomination for David. Do I have any others? Do you agree, David, or?
Yes, I would
You
accept,
accept.
yes.
Okay. Just making sure. Wanted you to have an option. All right. All those in favor of David being the vice chair of the Design Review Board?
Madam Chairman, was there a second?
Yes. Oh, no, I don't know there was. Sorry. See, this is all new to me. Sorry. So you just have to remind me. I'm going to have to go back and listen and take notes as to how. Yes.
Well, Betty made a comment that was a good choice, so maybe Betty can second.
Okay.
There's my second. Yes, I second.
Okay, thank you. So we have a second. Now, all those in favor of David as vice chair?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay. We now have a new vice chair. I will have to go and review my meeting protocol.
If you need anything, Amy, just reach out to staff. We're happy to help you.
Okay. I'm gonna have to get like a transcript or a.
I think we have materials that will help you out. I'll take a look.
Okay,
I'll send
just
those
so that
to
I
you.
can make sure
give
that
you a special
I do
hat
this
to wear.
correctly. Yeah.
A fez or something.
I need a script. That's what it is. That's the word I'm looking for. So I make sure I don't skip anything. Okay, so next on the agenda would be a planning department project update. Unless Mr. Bob wants to take back over to finish up.
I'll go right into it. So I don't have too many updates right now. It was brought to my attention that a few people have seen the flyers up in and around the Starbucks in the shopping center right there at the corner of 301 and 6. They're doing interior renovations. They're not doing anything external to the building at this point. They will be updating their patio furniture just because the ones that they have right now are kind of weathered and old. But they'll be sticking to the same Starbucks corporate franchise theme for colors. So that wouldn't necessarily need design review board approval. If they do come forward with any external changes, we'll have to review that with the new guidelines and code once that's adopted. We are taking the Chapter 16 Design Review Board guidelines to the January 25th Town Council meeting for adoption, and then they would become effective on February 9th. And so we'll just have to see how that plays into the process. But at this point in time, they are only doing interior renovations. They did submit a building permit for review and approval. They're getting close to having that issued, which is why they say coming soon in 2022. But there will be no changes to the exterior of the building at this point. Otherwise, we will be bringing back Magnolia Gardens to a future meeting date after they've gone to the Planning Commission for approval. And I don't believe we have any other projects in the pipeline at this point. As Jim mentioned earlier, Councilman Goldsmith mentioned earlier, we will have potential changes to the building 1014 Washington Avenue, which is adjacent to Magnolia Gardens. And again, if they're painting it white, that would be within the approved color scheme and most likely wouldn't come before the DRB. But as I mentioned before, with this new administrative staff process, we're not cutting the board out completely. We will be giving you monthly updates on what staff has reviewed with examples to show you what we've approved. And we can, this is a fluid process. It doesn't have to be stuck in stone. So if there are any issues moving forward, we can always reevaluate the design review board's roles and process. But we will make sure to bring you any administrative reviews, what was approved, and answer any questions that you may have. And that's all I have at this point in time. We have a lot of code revisions that are going to be coming forward with that deal more with the subdivision, adequate public facilities. We'll be looking at doing a form-based code for the downtown core area as part of our comprehensive plan to enforce that and to make it a little bit more flexible for redevelopment in the downtown core. It's not even going to be the entire central business district. It's literally just going to be that one small area that's bordered by Washington Avenue, Charles Street, North Maple, and the eventual connection of Talbot Street extended. So we're going to do a trial and error period there to test out form-based code in the town. Daunting and
Good morning.
controversial.
Yes, good morning. How are you?
I'm doing fine. How you doing?
It's a big change. You're going from the traditional Euclidean zoning where you have uses separated to more of a fluid mixed use zone that really just kind of looks at function and structure over the actual uses that are permitted in it. So that's something that I'll keep you updated on. And other than that, I don't think I have anything else at this time unless you have any questions for me.
I'm very, very excited about the form-based code. I think that's absolutely going to be a wonderful thing for our town.
Absolutely. We're of that same mindset. And like I said, we know that this may not come off the right way to a lot of people in the town. So we're doing a trial period with that specific area just to see how it goes. If it goes well, we may try to expand that out to the commercial zones or,
Absolutely. Yep.
So that will be
so exciting.
Yes. So we are looking into that. I've started doing my research and we'll be putting that draft code together, which will be reviewed by the council at a future date. So.
That's wonderful. Thank you. I wanted to thank Bob for his leadership. I've only been on the board for a few years, but I think it's really amazing to see such long involvement in our town, and something that I look forward to mimicking and trying to live up to. I think it's very nice to see that. Thank you, Bob.
Thank you.
Yep. Words right out of my mouth. Okay. Next up on our agenda is council updates.
Yes, a couple things. You were talking about artwork a few minutes ago, and actually we had a presentation to the council about artwork in the crosswalks. As an example, at the end of LaGrange Street there where it joins Route 6, have maybe a piano painted on the crosswalk, or note keys type thing. Other things within the interior crosswalks of the town. And that sounds interesting. So we're exploring that as a possibility down the line. Okay, we did look at the schedule of fees. Right now, we have not been charging anyone, any organization, when they come in to do an event for the police department support, public works support. And we're now going to be looking at establishing a fee for that based upon the man hours that we have to contribute to that from the town. We're being told that everybody should be expecting that, and there shouldn't be any resistance to it. Okay, the other thing is that we have, where we received word last night, that the American Rescue Plan Act, ARPA, we have roughly over $9 million that's allocated to the town of La Plata. Obviously, you got to follow many guidelines and many rules in order to use that. And if you spend it inappropriately, then you can have it taken back. Last night, we were told that they have put some new guidelines out. The latest basically says for anything under $10 million, it's pretty much open categories. So we've got an awful lot of flexibility now as we take a look at how we want to utilize that 9-point-something other $million for the town of La Plata. So that's very beneficial to us. And let's see. We are annexing in a lot out on Radio Station Road, right across Agacopia, for the septic system of that particular lot has failed, and it's put in pretty much our guidelines. Anytime a system fails and they want to join within the town, we pretty much accept that. So that's been prepared for annexation. I think that's it. Any questions of any kind?
Nope. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. We are in need of some alternates on the design review board. So if you do have any recommendations or know of anybody that is a town of La Plata resident that would be interested in serving on our board as an alternate, please let staff know so that we can find ourselves some alternates so that we will better be able to serve the community should one of the main members not be able to attend a meeting. Okay. Any other comments?
Yeah, I have a question.
Okay. Yes.
While I was in the hospital, the town of La Plata, no further designation, sent a flower arrangement to my house that I just found out about. So I'd like to send a thank you note, but I don't know who to identify because there was no name attached to it at all. So I assume, maybe incorrectly, I assume it came from the DRB or the planning department, not the DRB. They're not part of the town, but it must have been the planning commission, or maybe not. Anybody help me out?
More than likely, it was probably coordinated by Michelle.
I think you should.
Michelle Minor?
Michelle Minor or Brent Manuel, the town manager. Yep.
Okay, I don't even work with them at all, so Okay, what department are they? She's the assistant town manager, right?
Right.
Yes,
And he is
the town manager.
the town manager. Okay,
Hey, Bob. This is Mayor James. Can you hear me?
yes.
They might have gotten word from a neighbor / mayor that you were in the hospital, and that's Michelle coordinated that to send it.
Okay, so should I identify the town manager office?
Yes, that would be a good thing to do. We're glad
Okay.
you're feeling better.
Well, somewhat. Okay, thank you.
Well, we're sending well wishes your way, Bob. Hope you feel better.
Thank you.
Okay, if there is no further comments or business, I motion to adjourn today's session of the Design Review Board.
Second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, today is finished.
Really?
Have a good day, everyone.
Have a good day.
Have a good day.
Have a good day.
Have a good day.